Welcome to the MFR Coaches podcast, where we talk about how you can create a six-figure MFR practice. I'm your host, Heather Hommel. Not only have I been practicing MFR for 11 years, I'm also a life and business coach, especially for MFR therapists. My goal is for you to understand how to get fully booked, how to talk to your clients, and how to make sure they understand what's possible for them with MFR treatment. I'm here to help you stop under-earning, overworking, and burning out. I'll lend support so you can create the MFR practice you've always wanted. Learn how you can do it too, even if you live in a tiny town, and even if you're just starting out, and even if you've ran your practice for years. Let's go. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the MFR Coaches podcast. I am joined today by Ryan Lathe. Ryan is a licensed massage therapist who is an avid listener of the podcast. And we just jumped right into conversation. So you'll hear us just go right into it today, talking about all things the podcast, how the podcast has helped her. And you'll also hear me offer some feedback and some coaching to Ryan about what's possible for her. So enjoy the episode and see you later.
So I found your podcast because I was talking about how I was just unhappy in my business. I am a massage therapist. I'm here in New Braunfels, Texas, so just south of Austin, north of San Antonio. Continued to fly to Sedona for training. I had a significant health issue, and in July that year, it was right after my surgery. So I've been a massage therapist now for 12 years. I had a thriving business, a six-figure business, multiple years in a row, but I wasn't bringing home that much. I was literally giving my business away to people. I wasn't focusing on myself and literally paid for it. I just was completely unhappy and I couldn't figure out why I was living in my dream and I was living in everything that I built. And I was so deeply sad. And I was talking to Lindsay and Lindsay's like, you need Heather. I was like, who's Heather? What are you talking about? I've never heard of this before. And she was like, you need to listen. And so she sent me your podcast. Once I found you, it was like listening every single day, that whole time. And I was confronted by your podcast. I'm listening to you coach other people and tell people what are places they can start. So all of the free content that you were giving, I was like, okay, let me implement this and let me do this and let me download this. And you had guests on your podcast that talked about money. I was like, that's where I need to shift my mindset. And it was like this gold that I found with listening to your podcast. And I became extremely studious. And then all of these shifts in my life started happening. At the very minimum, your encouragement, listening to you coach over and over, and your mantra of stop overworking, stop getting underpaid, start living a life that you want. You shouldn't work more than 20 hours. I was killing myself in my massage business. I was burning out in my massage business, and I couldn't figure out why I didn't love massage anymore. And so it was just this trifecta of events that my body and God was telling me, you have got to shift. So after listening to your podcast and continuing seminars and allowing myself to be held by my MFR community, Lindsay introduced me to Donna Haidt, who's here in Austin. She's like, how do you not know Donna? She's right there. I'm like, I've been in a cave. I've been too afraid to venture out because I had this lack of confidence to talk about MFR. Your podcast helped me do that. Listening to you over and over, Heather tells me I can do it. I'm the expert. I was so confident in massage. I could light up and speak for hours over that. And I had come to this identity crisis of this isn't helping people the way I thought it was. And I'm even going to get emotional because it's just MFR literally changed my life completely. And then it was everything that you talk about. You go to seminars and yes, you learn everything about MFR, but then it's how do you incorporate this in your business? And there's little tidbits about that, but the focus is on technique, all the things.
Yeah. The point of the seminar is to make you guys really good hands-on therapists. They can't do everything.
Yes, absolutely. And so you were the missing piece of what I needed to change in my business. See, because I had done everything the wrong way. I built my massage business in the middle of a very chaotic divorce. a
Mhm.
custody battle, like all the things. You know, I signed a lease on a studio back then for massage back in 2017, the studio that I'm in now, literally as the rent was like 10 times what I was used to paying with 0 clients. And so I knew how to up level my massage business, but I didn't know how to translate that completely to MFR until I started listening to you, because a lot of it was the confidence. I didn't have the confidence in myself yet as an MFR practitioner, even though I had been practicing MFR forever. I was having a hard time because I was trying to convert massage clients who were they weren't there yet. They weren't ready to convert. And I was getting so discouraged, and I would literally listen to you just in my ear. I would be like getting down on myself and like wanting to give up. And then I would listen to about under earning and like knowing your value. And then I could hear myself saying your principle. I was sending your podcast to like my massage therapist friends that were like not charging enough. I was like, Heather says, it's the stuff that you talk about. It's they've been my clients since I started. I can't change my rate. And as a massage therapist, I had changed my rates out of necessity, out of survival, but I wasn't doing it because I wanted to. Right? Mm-hmm. Like when I listen to you talk, you continue to say like, this is your business. It's your business. You get to make the policies. You get to charge whatever rate that you want. When I started listening, I got really serious about my paperwork, getting the data. And I had already felt you were just affirming things that I had been procrastinating, and just affirming the fact that like, this is how you get there. Like you can't get there until you understand the health of your business. What hours are you actually working? How many hours a week are you working? What money is that? Where does it go? And like all of these things. And so when I considered joining coaching yet, I was like, oh no, like I'm going to have this homework done first. And I bought your book, which I have not cracked open yet because I'm like trying to still get all this data and like create these reports and do all these things. And I'm working with a local like free business advisor just to get my reporting right. And I told him, I was like, I just need you to help me with my reports because I want to do this coaching and I'm going to have these numbers.
I just want you to know, you don't have to come into coaching with any reports or really know anything about your business, because I have the whole program set up to like ask you very specific questions so you can just answer them and you don't actually need someone else to help you with it. Right?
Yes,
like it's like all information that you have in your online booking schedule or in your pen and paper notebook where you track your clients. That's all. It's not that advanced as far as like you need an accountant to tell you, right?
Yeah. You know, you have like your ego gets involved. You're like, I've been doing this long enough that I should know this. And it was one of those
here's
things
the thing,
like, no.
Right? Where do we go to learn these business skills? Where do we go?
Nowhere. To school.
There isn't anywhere, right? So I created it especially for MFR therapists. And yeah, a lot of it translates to any businesses. One of my cousins is so funny. She also consumes all of my free trainings and my podcast and like sends it to her friends. And she works for like NPR, translating into sales on a radio show, which is so fun. But yeah, like we're subjected to business practices that were created by white males over the decades of like, this is how you do business. And that's our exposure to it, right? We see it here and there. And we think we have to do those business practices in order to have a business that we want. The only thing is like, okay, are we factoring in that we're also therapists and we're also women and we're also really conditioned to not earn money and for money to not be safe and for us to not know what we're doing and to be just that iterated to us over and over and over again, right? So I'm of the mind of like, no, we can do whatever we want. We do have to learn the skills. Like we have to have the willingness to learn the skills to have the business that we want. And it's not just something that we're born into or that you're either good at or you're bad at. I think anyone that wants to have a 6-figure fully booked MFR practice can have one if that is what they want. Not everybody wants that. Also, right?
Yeah.
And that's also not the measure of success. You get to decide what your measure of success is. And when you ask yourself those high value questions of what is success to me, and you know exactly what you're looking for, it's much easier to achieve it than success is just being like everybody else, or I'm only successful if I'm working my ass off, right? Which is a lot of the problems in our industry as a whole is success only looks like 60 or 70 clients a week. And that's what's killing our industry overall, because people are working and under earning for sure.
You know, when I got divorced, it was like, now I have no provider. Like I have
you've got to be the provider. Yeah.
Yeah. And I had to fill two roles, right? I had to be in my masculine and my feminine. And like, I still feel like I'm still operating a little bit over masculine. As listening to your podcast, like I shifted my hours. I was like, you know what? I'm enough working double shifts. Because when I shifted this year in January to MFR only, I felt like I had to pick up their shifts of the team that I had. I had so much confidence in changing my rate. I still have massage on the menu because I was transitioning out of it. And I doubled the rate for massage to really like encourage people to do MFR. So I charge $150 an hour. Up until then, I was charging $100 an hour. It's not cutting it because I don't want to work as much as I'm working now. And so I'm like working towards transitioning towards that, and also believing that low six figures is not what I want. Like I want to travel. My son is 16 now. He's 2 more years and I don't want him to go straight to college. I want to be able to take him to Europe and travel and do these things. So I'm like, all right, I'm on a timeline here where I better get serious about this because I want to make $500,000 a year, be able to take 12 weeks off, and like these big dreams that I didn't have before I had your voice in my ear, because I was so stuck in the massage conditioning of knowing that as a massage therapist, you were never going to make 6 figures a year. Well, I did. There was always the discrediting, well, you didn't take home that. So how can you not only earn it, but bring home more money and not be afraid to pay taxes and not be afraid of all the things? And listening to you and like the experts that you have brought on about the money mindset. That's one of the things that really hit home for me. It was like, man, I need to deprogram and like really understand like what you're saying. Men don't have that limited belief. You know, they walk into the world like they own it. We as women, as what I've experienced in my life, is this belief that we can't do that. And in order to have more money, you have to cut out things. And I was listening to you talk about how you enjoy fine dining. And I'm like, yes, Heather, I enjoy fine dining too. And I would love to do that with my son. And I want to really live life to the fullest and be able to do that without worrying about spending. Like I need to figure out how to earn more and not have the minimal amount of energy to actually do those things.
Yeah, you want to be able to make the money, but still live your life, because most people are fine being on the hamster wheel of making the money, but then don't have a life outside of their business. A good example of this is, and I'm guilty of being this person, but it's like my whole life is MFR. And like the only time off from my practice was going to MFR seminars. Like all my friends are MFR therapists.
I'm with you.
All my vacations are MFR, which are not vacations. Like you're working really hard at seminars, like to learn, and you're also physically working on other people. So you want to be able to have your practice set up in a way where you have a life outside of MFR and a rich and full life that's just as good as how you feel when you're in the MFR world. But we really do need to work towards having a life outside of our practices. I don't mean cut off MFR, right? It just means like, do you have hobbies? Do you want hobbies outside of MFR? Maybe you don't, right? But it's like asking yourself those high value questions to get a high value answer. Why am I doing this? I think for me, a lot of it is, I love what I do so much. And when I was doing MFR full time, being surrounded by the people who get it, and also like feeling really good, like being in channel 3 on purpose, like it feels really, really good. You're getting all of this positive feedback. You're getting all this positive stimulation that we don't get in our day-to-day lives. Same with why it feels so good to be in the treatment room. 1, someone's paying you for your time. 2, they love you because you're helping them. And 3, like you feel successful in those environments, right? Like you're not going to MFR seminars because you don't feel successful, right?
Yeah.
My other argument for that is like when you invest at that level of time and money and mental fortitude in those things, are you also equally invested in building your business so that you've got the skills of the hands-on skills, but are you also creating the time and space for you to create the business that will support those skills and also create a financial return. Because I see this all the time. People go and go and go to get to that expert level, like as fast as they can go. And then they're like so disheartened that their business is not producing at an expert level because they are not an expert in their business. Mid at best. Most people's business skills are very low level, just like, oh, I just show up, treat people. So you've got to be investing in yourself and your business at the same level you're investing in your skill set for that business to run. But people really miss out on that. I'm super guilty of that. I did not have any sort of like exposure to coaching, didn't know what it was, thought people were crazy, that they were like joining a cult if they like had any kind of help. I just could not see the value in investing in something outside of my skill level. And that probably cost me hundreds of thousands of dollars over the lifetime of my business because of my stubbornness and my know-it-all mentality and my ego of like, I just know it all. And a lot of us therapists are cut from the same cloth. And so it's a difficult room to be in, to work, to convince people that like, hey, this is something that you need to spend money on.
I completely agree. And so being an entrepreneur for so long, like I was not one of those people that treated my business like a hobby. I wasn't one of those people. I was always ambitious and, paid a designer to have a brand guide, and I paid for a website, and I like did all those things. So I have all of that. So one of my limits for like, I hear you all the time, like, I don't know why everybody's not on the directory. I'm like, I just want to get this brand changed to myofascial release before I get listed.
Right. But that's another thing is like, we think that the way our website looks is really important. We think that the photography is really important. What is the other like misnomers? Like, we think we need all these marketing materials, but really all we need is for people to find us. And we make more money the easier people can find us. So being on the directory isn't necessarily high value for rando clients finding you, but it is high value for other therapists making recommendations for clients to see you. And those are very high value clients that come in from those recommendations. And if you're not on the directory, you don't exist in the MFR world, right? Basically, right? I mean, I guess I'll take the time to go check on MFR Insight, but if I'm doing that, I'm super annoyed by that point and pissed off at the therapists that are not listed. There are only 500 people on the directory, and that's really poor showing. That is a really poor showing for our industry.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So all that to say is like, fine, go do your rebranding, but really make decisions about your practice that are like, actually, how do people find me better? It doesn't matter what your name is. If people know your name and they know how to find you, and you're coming up in Google search and you have online booking and you're making it easy for people to find you, who cares? I'm at almost $1 million in sales, and I just did a rebrand of my website.
I see. I didn't know that. So the thing I think that was holding me back was confusing. Like, I didn't want to confuse people. I guess still in the belief of like your first impression, all of that. Like, I've completely restructured my business. Mm-hmm. Like, I had no problem doing that. But yeah, like you helped me have the courage to restructure unapologetically and let basically me have to rebuild all of my clients again, because I did. Like, a lot of my massage clients didn't want MFR.
Yeah, they want massage.
Yes. And I had to learn how to be okay with that. And I don't think that I would have been as okay as I am now with it without listening to your podcast. And I feel myself, when I feel myself getting small and discouraged when like people don't want to hear from me or don't want to come in, I find that when I listen to your podcast and even just like your opening, even the like stop under earning, working 20 hours or less, get your life back, make 6 figures. It's just like, yes, all of that. Yes. So let's keep focused on your actual goals and stop trying to satisfy people that are not getting you towards the life that you want. And that's the messaging that I continue to get. It's like, why are you worried about catering to people who are not helping you get to the life that you want? And
Like, you got to stop doing what's not working in order to get to what is going to work. It's the same for people that want massage and don't want MFR, but whatever.
Yes, exactly. And well, that's the thing, right? I was doing the same thing that I was irritated with them doing, is that like, if you would just listen, then I can get you there. Another thing that you say a lot is, and I actually use this line of like helping people get to what's possible for them, right? Yeah. And I'm like, thank you, Heather, because I had the courage to just tell them this is going to help you. And there's many times where I'm still at that point of not wanting to feel like I'm pressuring anyone to do anything or another. But I have gained the courage to tell them, this is what I recommend for you. You still have to make the commitment to your own healing.
Well, it starts with us, right? Like being committed to our own belief and our own results in MFR and what is possible for our patients. And we have to be committed first. And this is one thing that I see happen over and over again is we think the client has to be more committed than us, that the client has to be committed in any sort of way. And we negate all the ways that they're already committed. They're committed when they made the appointment. They're committed when they pay. They're committed when they rebook. They're committed when they show up again. And we have to make that good enough. And we have to be overly committed to the result that they're going to get. And then it takes all of the heavy lifting and the pressure off of the client because it's not their job to be more committed to this or whatever. We have to be committed to it. That's it. And the reason why is because we know more. We know functionally and metabolically, like what happens when someone's receiving the treatment. We know that they don't, and they never actually have to understand it. I think when we take the pressure off of anyone else having to understand at the level that we do, when we've had hundreds, if not over 1,000 of hours of training, our clients are not committed at that level. We are. Just like I just had neurosurgery, back surgery, right? And I am not committed to learning neurosurgery, but I'm still able to receive that and get a result. Does that make sense? And we have to quit thinking, this is like my soapbox, that people have to be committed to MFR or know anything about it. They don't. And I think sometimes the less they know, the better patient they are, honestly.
One thing that I hear you say a lot, but like I keep getting the clients that challenge me with the science.
You know the science, so why does it matter? Just answer the questions.
This is why I like listening to you in my ear, because I'm like, I feel myself not being that bold.
But only because you don't have the skills, right? Like when you listen, I love that you've had the results you've had from the podcast. And I love that we're doing this because there are hundreds of people that listen to the podcast, same as you, that are waiting to join coaching. And it's like, when you listen to the podcast ends and you can't ask a question and you can't say, this is the scenario, tell me where I'm blind, right? And that is what you pay for when you come to coaching, is there are no blind spots then, because I'm just going to talk to you the way I'm talking to you now. And you get to ask questions, receive feedback, you learn other skills. I think I have 98 lessons in the course portal, right? You're not having 98 lessons on the podcast. If you are, they're like, the podcast is the tip of the iceberg. The information that I give on this podcast is a lot. And I try to give as much, like I'm not holding anything back, but I mean, we'd have 700 shows of the podcast, right? Yeah. So it's like, you're blocking yourself from the full value of what's possible for you and how quickly you could move with these things in your business, because none of this has to take a long time. And it also saves you money because you quit buying things that you don't need, and you make more money because you create more clients more quickly.
Absolutely. I just keep hearing you and I'm like, I know I need to join coaching. Like I listen to the podcast of like other people that are in coaching that are describing like the things that are helpful. And I'm really good friends with Donna.
Yeah.
Donna is still, I guess she's mastermind now. And I'm thinking like, man, like Donna is like my goal, what she has built for herself. She is like big sister, you're doing it. You're showing me that it's possible here in this era. And her whole vibe, and like Donna and I get along with her so well. And she's in mastermind. Like, you have the business that I want and you're still in coaching, And so
but okay. So what are your thoughts about people that get coaching or that continue to stay in it? Because I have a lot of people that are, and I'm like genuinely curious, not like, how dare you? I'm like genuinely curious because I have people that were my original client, my very first client that I had is in my mastermind. I would say 70% of my one-on-one clients that started with me way back when are still in coaching. And they're the ones that have these huge businesses and they're working, very few hours compared to the norm in our industry. And they're the ones that are killing it, right? And they're the ones where like their business is the easiest part of their day. Where in that does that sound really bad and scary that you could possibly join coaching and stay in?
I think that what's blocking me now, and like a lot of it was not having the capital to just join, for one, even
There's
though
payment plan.
The steps that I was telling you about in the beginning that you're like, you don't need all that. I think that a part of it comes from having to prove myself to the people in my life that like these decisions that I'm making are sound decisions. And I think that comes literally more psychological for me and emotional for the fact that like I was married for 11 years and got divorced. And so that wound.
But why does that matter?
Exactly.
Like you were married for 11 years and you got a divorce. So what?
I think the story in my head is constantly running in the background of like, you don't know how to make decisions, right?
Yeah,
so there's
which is more like, this is how I would coach you on this, okay? Happy hour coaching with Heather. You made a decision 11 years ago, and then you made a new decision, which was to get a divorce. And now you're continuing to make new decisions every day. Just because you couldn't foresee that this marriage would end in 11 years didn't mean you made a bad decision. Do you see how that idea that you make bad decisions is probably costing you a lot of money? It's probably costing you a lot of time, and it's probably costing you a lot of stress. Not to mention, like, what else does it create when you think all day, got to be careful, I got divorced.
Yes, that's the thing. It's like
maybe getting divorced was the best decision you made, but you couldn't make that decision if you weren't already married.
I think it's the fear of being seen as impulsive or irresponsible.
How do you see yourself though? Because here's the thing. You cannot, this is for everybody listening, you cannot control anything anyone else thinks about you, no matter what you do or say. We do not create other people's thoughts. We are just a circumstance in their life. So what's important is, what do you think and believe and feel about yourself?
I was actually I had like therapy today and like crying about the money again. And she's like, okay, this is a consistent problem that she's been trying to work with me on, like, what is my, like, the psychology behind what is happening. And like, I'm working on my own trauma healing from all the stories, right? All the stories I tell myself, like all the shifts that I need to make, and being in therapy. And then I see Donna for MFR. So like, she has inspired me so much in like my practice and how I want to now operate more in that. And so like having her have that example, me being a client of hers and experiencing it for myself, it has helped me with inspiration, right? Like, this is what I want. These are the results. And so that's another thing too, like with being her client and then listening to you is like, what kind of therapist do you want to be? Right? I want to be someone who is being with the people who are unwinding really big and like breaking through deep layers of stuff. That's where I'm at. I want to help people on that level. How do I do that? You helped me be okay with saying yes to that. Like, that is the kind of business that I want. I want to work with fewer clients in a month. And so another thing that with the podcast is that like I structured my hours. And I have structured it to where you only can schedule at this time for a 90-minute and this time for a 90-minute. And in the middle, there's 60 minutes. So if I need to combine a 2-hour, that's where they have to go. So these clients don't have like free reign over my time. Like,
but you still have to find the perfect fit for the 90s, right? Otherwise, do you have the availability for 4 hours to get scheduled, or only 2 hours a day?
So I work 9:30 to 4. So that's 2 90 minutes and 2 60 minutes.
But what if you get 4 people that want 60 minutes is what I'm saying.
Oh, I won't do that in a day. Yeah, I won't.
But why would you do 2 90s and 2 60s? Why is 4 60s more work?
Because of my schedule for my son for school. So me dropping him.
It's the same hours. So what I'm saying is, if you have a 90-minute at the beginning and a 90-minute at the end, and you have space for 2 60s in the middle, could 4-hour-long people book during your schedule?
I don't have people who do that. So most of my clients are 90-minute clients because I spent like time like working this and like what works for me. The schedule works for me now.
It's one thing if it works for you, but it's another thing. It sounds Like if you came to coaching, the first thing I will coach you on is to pick one or the other. Almost everyone that comes in riding on their 90-minute horse rides off on a 60-minute horse because you make more money doing a 60-minute treatment. No matter what, I will fight you to the death. And it's just easier. And you can get everything done in a 60-minute appointment that you can in a 90-minute.
I tried to make that okay for me, and it wasn't working with my life. The timing of the time that my son goes to school and gets off of school, I couldn't fit the extra 60 minutes in because there's 30-minute breaks in between for me to...
I'm still confused about how you're scheduled. How many hours of treatment do you do a day?
5 hours of treatment.
5 hours. So why can you not schedule 4 people in for hour-long sessions if there's 5 hours?
I could limit more, but I like 90-minute sessions. Like that's my comfort zone. Like,
I know everybody likes them. They're comfort zones because they feel like they can get more done. And it's because they feel like their clients like it more.
I don't know. It's just been what's popular. I just like it. I just like it that way.
Yeah, I know. But if you had 1 hour sessions and people had to pay full price for another hour, like you would make more money. If you have...
Oh, they pay full price. So like I charge $150 for an hour and $225 for a 90-minute. So I'm not losing money on the time. They don't get a discount. I would still make the same amount of money if I had. Right.
But 2 hours are going to go by because of that treatment and you're not getting paid for 2 hours.
2 hours are going to go by how? Like
the 90-minute of treatment and the 30 minutes in between.
Yes. I would still have 30 minutes in between if I did 60 minutes.
But I would just add up, like if you did 2 90 minutes in a day or you did 4 hours, is it the same amount of money?
So 4 hours is $600, right? I have $225, that's $450 plus $300.
But you're working
an extra hour.
So then you're working 5 hours.
Yeah.
So that's $750 versus if you worked 4 hours,
which is $600. So I'm still only seeing 4 clients. It's just I'm making more money doing that. So once I started listening to just the one offer like podcasts and stuff, I was like, okay, figuring out what my one offer is the 90 minutes. And so that's what's advertised. Now for my prenatal plans, they're based off 60-minute sessions. So I have a prenatal plan that's 25 sessions over the course of the pregnancy and different frequencies throughout each trimester. That those 1 hour appointments are reserved for my prenatals. I can take 2 prenatals, depending on when they're due, a month, and 2 of my Vivify programs every month. Okay. So that's 4 programs that I can sell a month and still have time for the single session.
You just have a lot of offers. You have 90-minute, an hour, an intensive, and a prenatal. You have 4 offers that you have to sell. Are you fully booked?
I had been, yeah, up until this month. Yeah.
So what happened though when you became not fully booked?
You know, the body keeps the scores triggering when you have trauma and stuff like that. And so I started dealing with my own health and my own mental health that my business kind of took a back seat to me doing those things. And so that experience really helped me. Clearly, I'm not able to balance still. You know, I'm not able to. Do you have
time in your schedule where you can deal with processing your own trauma and your own emotions that's outside of your working hours so that even if you're having like a traumatic week or whatever, that you have time to process that and it doesn't interfere with your work?
It's interesting because this period of my life is like, I've been the most peaceful that I've ever been dealing with myself. But my issue this month has been, oh, well, shit, like I haven't worked my business.
Yeah. But I think just knowing that and having the awareness around it and then going forward instead of just spinning in, I stopped selling MFR. I'm not fully booked. It's like, okay, we know the problem. You stopped selling. So just start selling again. Like it's not a huge problem to solve. What was working before, go back to doing everything that was working before. It's just math and drama, right? It's like, oh, I quit selling.
I love that you say that so much. I love that you say that all the time.
Because it sounds really important. Like I'm dealing with trauma and I'm like really spun out and I'm trying to heal. That sounds really important and it is really important. But what does it actually look like you're doing and how many hours of the day is that taking? And could you spend the time on the weekend dealing with that and really allowing yourself to heal and not let it interfere with the business of you have to create money in order to create a paycheck for yourself, you know?
Yes.
I know it sounds a little bit linear and like maybe even mean.
No, it doesn't sound mean at all. It just sounds simple. What you're proposing,
it's not complicated.
It's simple.
Yeah.
It's just simple. And this experience of me like, okay, I'm going to listen. I'm going to pull back and restructure so that I have more time for my life and myself, and making the decision to be more of an intensive care kind of practice for people. That means that I have to deal with myself to hold space for them in those moments.
What does pulling back and restructuring actually mean, and how many hours do you have left before that's complete?
So where I was working, where 20 hours was my minimum, 20 hours is my maximum now. Okay. Right.
So the restructuring is done. You've redone your schedule.
Part of it is I want to move towards not offering single sessions anymore. So the whole having multiple offers, I'm going to condense that. But it's in the process of doing that because I'm
going to give you some coaching on this, because the people that are not it's fine to do what you want to do. I'm not your coach. I'm just playing one on TV right now. But the people that are getting rid of single sessions and going towards an intensive offer only have gotten and stayed fully booked at single sessions, right? And they never stop selling those actually. And you use the intensive, it's another offer. It's fine to want that, but I would not do that at the expense of what that could create in your business if you're not already fully booked. It's fine to want that and to work towards that, but
that's what I'm saying.
Need to blow your whole business down and be I'm only accepting intensive clients, because even Therapy on the Rocks and even Malvern do one-offs.
I agree with that. I'm not at a point where I can do that yet, but that's in my near future goal of making sure that I'm hitting those markers. So all of that being said, this whole experience of me being fine, and then this month being okay, well, really deep diving into my own self-care is interfering with my ability to show up in my job.
Is that even true? Or do we know that you just stopped selling?
Oh, I stopped selling. So,
right.
Yes.
Is the story true that you dealing with your own healing is having any effect on your business?
In the fact that I stopped selling, yes. But what I was getting at is that this proved to me even more that being in a coaching container, my therapist doesn't understand, all the things that you say, right? The coaching container is for this, what I just went through, to be able to come to people who get it, who are living their lives, who have their own experiences, all of this wisdom. And that's why, it was funny because I was like, man, I'm about to go on this podcast talking about how this podcast helped me so much. And I've had the worst month the whole year.
Yeah.
And I'm
but also business, and you'll get to this podcast eventually. Business is not linear. And you having 1 month of being less busy because we know you stopped selling, we know the virus that you got the virus of not selling. Okay, let's get rid of the virus and start selling again. Business is not linear, and it's okay. And on the average, at the end of this year, you will probably have averaged every month the same amount, the same large amount that was close to your goal. Just like how you could have an $8,000 a month only working 2 weeks. So that's the baller thing about being in coaching is none of this has to spin you out for longer than a couple of minutes to a couple of hours, because you can just post it in the Facebook group hey, I'm having this thought that my own healing journey is affecting my business, or I'm having the thought I'm underbooked this month because I'm having a health crisis, right? All of these things. And sometimes there's circumstances that are going to create the result of being less booked, but it's much more effective when you know why. And then you can look at it objectively or subjectively and be oh, this is the reason for A, B, C, and D. Now, on top of that, I'm also thinking I'm bad at decisions. And if I continue to get MFR, it's going to put me behind, because then I'm going to have pain, and then I'm going to have trauma, right? And it's no.
And then a healing crisis is going to keep me from what I have to do.
I think if nothing else from having this conversation, if you never have the thought again that you are not good at making decisions, or you have to be really careful about the decisions that you make, if you never think that way again, or you catch yourself thinking that and you don't let that influence whether or not you can make a decision, you are going to make more money, you are going to be more confident, and you are going to just go faster. That every time you have that thought, I'm not good at making decisions, or I have to be careful, it is slowing you down. It is just throwing honey on you, not in a good way.
Thanks for tuning in today. Before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to remind you that my Foundations program is still open for enrollment, and we're keeping the doors open until every spot is filled. I get that life's been extra busy lately between the election, family, holidays, everything else we juggle as entrepreneurs. It can be easy to put your goals on the back burner. As a mom of three and a business owner, I totally get it. I see you. But here's the thing. If you're ready to get fully booked in 2025, to turn those valuable myofascial release skills into a true revenue generating practice, there's no better time to start. The Foundations program is 12 months of support designed to help MFR therapists just like you reach their fullest potential. This program is specifically crafted for those of you who want to move beyond trading hours for dollars and build a practice that truly supports your life goals. We're talking about a step-by-step path to get booked out and fully realize the business potential of the training you've already invested in. And for those of you who've been in business for years, when you join, we will adjust the business you already have to ensure you aren't under-earning and are getting the most out of your business by making it even easier to save you time and generate more money. You'll get weekly support, accountability, and proven strategies to help you succeed. And I'm sending all enrollees a little extra thank you gift, so you'll be set up with everything you need. The investment is $3,000 for the entire year. That's for 12 months of support, resources, and growth opportunities, and the best community. I can't wait to support you and watch your practice flourish. So if you've been hesitating, let this be your sign. Join us now, and let's get you on the path to a fully booked and thriving 2025. Go to www.themfrcoach.com/foundation for all the details and to enroll now. We'll see you there.
Well, I appreciate you and I appreciate your passion for helping people like me through these things. You know, I love that you're so passionate about even taking the time to create the podcast. I have benefited from your dedication to that. And I've appreciated your vulnerability of talking about your own experience. And you had to work through the thoughts around MFR fixing you, like being the thing.
Like not being the solve for this problem.
Yeah. And like how you had to work through that. And this is you in the position that you're in and the amount of time that you've been doing this. And like, hey, like this constant reiteration of like, I'm one of you people. Like, I'm one of you guys. I also have to do the work with myself. And so I really just want to say like how much it means to me for you to show up and be vulnerable to talk about the hard things that you've had to work around in your own like mindset work and like just how you've shifted and how you show up and you evolve and allow us to witness that process. And you have shared what it was like when you started this coaching program and like what it's been for you to transition from a practitioner to only a coach. And not only a coach, I know you're a mom, you're a wife and all the things, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm so proud to have found you and have been able to experience the benefit of what you're putting out in the world. And I know personally people that are in coaching, like have worked with them through, you know, I've become really good friends and they're in your coaching in the past, or they just started coaching. And it's like, I believe in your program. I believe in what you're doing. I believe in the passion that you have for this. And, you know, I love that you have the life coaching back. I can hear it in how you're talking to people because I've been in business kind of coaching things and I've been just in life coaching before. And I can hear how both of those things have influenced the way that you share with us and how you talk to us. And it's never mean. Like I hear you say that sometimes and I'm like, Heather, you are not mean. You are direct.
I don't know. Some people think I am, but I'm just very direct and, you know, maybe on the spectrum. And I don't have any room for like, I just sometimes just don't break it super gently because I don't want people to miss out on the information. And it's like the best way for me to say it is to just say it. And I'm not worried if people like me or not. I like myself enough. I'll just like myself enough for both of us if I need to. But that's one thing I've learned from, you know, I think my coaching skills is like being confident enough to say the thing, even when it's risking the relationship and even when someone might take it the wrong way. It's okay. And the cool thing about coaching, and I think about, I want to just give so much credit to the people that have been through the program or can continue to work the program is like, they are different. Like the way they experience their lives, they have this transformation where they're like observers of everything that's going on and their reactions to everything that's going on. And they own the responsibility of how they're thinking and feeling regardless of the circumstance. And it's so empowering to have that skill set and and it doesn't mean that you never yell at your kids or you never get in a fight again or you never hate your clients. It just means that you can take the ultimate responsibility for how you're experiencing that. And that means also that you can have a different experience if you want to, which is just really fun. And it's been life-changing for me to have that skill set because I always thought the world was happening to me before coaching.
And I love that I've witnessed that. I'm witnessing and experiencing it just on this iceberg level, right? Like the little tip of the iceberg level. And I'm experiencing it in such a big, impactful way. So when I hear you, I understand and believe that what you're teaching, it's like you had said earlier, these principles apply to anything and everything in your life.
It's not just business. Like you're going to do your life different. Yeah.
Yes,
well, I appreciate all that. I appreciate you being such an invested listener and being open to the things that I say and for, like being part of the MFR industry because it takes all of us to make MFR mainstream. It takes all of us making a new decision about how we're going to show up as therapists and how we're going to lead in this industry to make MFR mainstream and to make sure that none of us under earn or burn out. But it really starts with us as the MFR therapist making new decisions and being like, you know what? It's no longer acceptable for 60 hours or 40 or 50 hours of treatment to be the success level. What else is possible for me? And how is it actually better for me and my patients when I make those choices? Because it's that mentality that like, we can't say no, and we have to do more and it's never enough. And if someone's in pain, I have to help them. That's going to ruin our industry overall because there won't be enough really good therapists left at the end of the day. And people could be doing this work till they're 100 years old. The longevity can be there if that's something you want to do and that you've set yourself up to be able to do. But we have to make those choices when we're younger to set us up to do those things in the long run.
Absolutely. You're on my goal, like going through coaching and doing all the things. I am gladly going to jump on your free offers as many times as you're going to offer that. And
I hope you will come to coaching and know that you're going to make your money back. Out of the 100 people we have in coaching right now, 70 of them have already made their money back. And the other 30 just joined within the last couple of months. So you make your money back plus more. We have just in coaching alone, just over 100 people that we have in there, we're at $3,238,988 in sales of MFR therapists just since August. So that's in 11 months, 10 months.
That's
sales of just the people that are reporting, right? So we haven't always had 100 people in there. For, I think the first 6 months of this, we had 50 people, right? So it's growing. And I think this week we had 38 people submit their report. Out of those 38 people, the average weekly cash collected was $1,450 per person. And the number of clients seen by those 38 people was 370 clients. That's a lot of clients served in 1 week's time and a lot of money. $55,119 collected in 1 week by those 38 people that submitted.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And it's not all about the money, but the money is a good marker of the health of the businesses of the people that are in this program. And I also love the metric of, 70 out of 100 right now have already made their money back, plus lots more, right? This is the first $3,000. And the other people are going to make it back. They're brand new, right? So it's awesome. I love it. I think I have awesome results. And I don't know of any other program in this space, for MFR therapists that offers the amount of support we offer, because we have weekly live coaching calls. We have a Facebook group where you can get coached anytime and a coach will respond to your messages. And then we have these weekly reports where you have the opportunity to submit for private coaching and someone will respond to your message. I don't know anywhere else where it's that hands-on for $3,000 for an entire year anywhere.
Oh yeah, I agree. This blessing in disguise of crisis month has really illuminated that for me about what you're saying, how much money am I losing not doing coaching? What am I waiting for? Right.
I know. What are you waiting for? You're waiting for things to be all perfect so you can feel a certain way joining. And I think one of the hesitations for you is I'm making a good decision, because I'm afraid if I tell someone who knows me and knows my drama, that they're going to be afraid for me.
Yes. And it's the
you don't have to tell anyone that you joined. They might listen to this podcast, but you don't have to tell anyone that you joined. It's none of their business, right? And I do this stuff all the time too. Before coaching, I'd be like, I got to ask my husband. I got to go ask my mom. I got to ask my sister. And it's like, they are not making decisions in my business. I am. So I have to ask me. Did I cut out?
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the MFR Coaches podcast, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Thanks for joining me today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a minute and rate and review the podcast. I appreciate it. For more information, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram at The MFR Coach. And check out my website, www.themfrcoach.com for more information. If you are currently not working 20 hours or less and making six figures in your MFR business, I want to help you change that. Make sure you tune into the show and get on my email list so you never miss out on important trainings and information. To be the first to find out when we are enrolling next for my 12-month Business Foundations coaching program, get on that email list at www.themfrcoach.com/join. Inside this program, you'll learn how to raise your rate, overcome objections, and sell MFR. You'll become the MFR therapist that never under-earns and never burns out. It's up to us to make MFR mainstream, and it starts with you and your successful MFR practice. See you next week.